Breaking news coming in, and this is in regard to Sheikh Hasina. And breaking news that is coming in is that she has been found guilty. That is the breaking news that we have on the former Prime Minister of Bangladesh. She's been found guilty on 3 counts: incitement, order to kill, and failing to take action against perpetrators and liable to be punished. As far as the first charge is concerned, in that regard, she has been given life imprisonment. In charge 2 is death sentence for ordering the use of lethal weapons and drones as well as helicopters. The ex-Bangladeshi Prime Minister has been sentenced to death. That is what we have at the moment of the breaking news that is coming in. Saurabh Gupta, my colleague, joining us in order to get us the latest on this. Saurabh, the news that's coming in is that Bangladesh's International Crimes Tribunal has found the deposed Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina guilty in cases. These are 3 counts. Take us through the details of what really has happened today.
Well, there are 3 counts, of course, against, in terms of the charges against Sheikh Hasina, the former Prime Minister of Bangladesh. Remember, she was in charge in July, August, when something that ostensibly looked like an agitation against quota eventually turned out to be an agitation against her government, culminating in her fleeing Bangladesh. Now, since then, of course, the International Crimes Tribunal, which was a tribunal set up in 1973 in the country to try, those accused of crimes against humanity, as far as the liberation struggle is concerned, that same tribunal was reconstituted and, of course, has now tried Sheikh Hasina, the former Prime Minister, Asaduzzaman Khan, who's, of course, the former Home Minister, and IGP Chowdhury Abdullah Al-Mamun, who, of course, will get a lesser sentence, will see some sort of pardon for his conviction because, of course, he became a state witness turned approver. But as far as Sheikh Hasina is concerned, we know that the tribunal has, of course, found her guilty on 3 counts. One is incitement. Then, of course, the second is order to kill, including the order to use lethal weapons, drones, helicopters to stop the protesters. And of course, the 3rd count that they've mentioned is also the fact that she failed to prevent the atrocities that were committed. Now, this is, of course, the tribunal. Sheikh Hasina's party, of course, has said that this is a sham trial. It's a kangaroo court. In fact, Sheikh Hasina was not even present during the trial. And of course, this is also a pre-decided sentence in a way. This is to get her out of Bangladesh's political system, and it's a hit on democracy, accusing the Yunus government in Bangladesh of setting up a sham court, a kangaroo court, and holding a sham trial to eventually pronounce what was always a pre-decided sentence, which is the death sentence. That's, of course, what Sheikh Hasina's party has said. Now, this, of course, doesn't come as a surprise to anyone who's been watching these developments. In fact, when the chief prosecutor in this case also pled and sort of asked for the death penalty, it was a foregone conclusion that this would happen. And of course, there have been questions on the legality and the validity of the trial that was held. Sheikh Hasina has, of course, challenged the whole process, and her party has made it very clear that this is a blot on democracy, a hit on democracy. And of course, this is a pre-decided trial to try and get her out of the system. In fact, she claims that there was an attempt to kill her that day itself, on the 5th of August, when she fled from her residence, Gonobhaban, which minutes later, after her helicopter took off from Gonobhaban towards the Tejgaon base, her home, then her official residence, was stormed by violent protesters who intended to kill her. And of course, then she had flown out of the country in a military aircraft, from Dhaka's Tejgaon base into, of course, India, and where she's believed to be now at an undisclosed location. So obviously, this is the thing. But the biggest news coming out of the International Crimes Tribunal in Dhaka is that Sheikh Hasina has been sentenced to death. But that's not it. Alongside that, what Sheikh Hasina has alleged is that there's been an attempt to erase her legacy and her party's legacy in the liberation struggle of Bangladesh. That's why today, of course, there have been protesters with bulldozers at 32 Dhanmondi, which is Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the founding father of Bangladesh, his ancestral home. Those protesters want to break it down. They want to kill his daughter. Of course, this is something that has been transpiring in the past as well. But now, of course, the ICT, the International Crimes Tribunal, has pronounced its verdict and sentenced former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, to
Right.
death.